everyone, this is Preacher Timothy with Mules for the Lord, Mules Cherry Pillar Corporation. I wanted to let everybody know today with the inconsistencies of some of the translations within the Bible. If you open up your book to Genesis 1, and just look at that, it says this. It says, in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. The heaven and the earth. Singular. Heaven singular. As I said in a previous video, some of the older translations of the Bible, the older translations of the Bible say heavens and earth. So whenever people were compiling the King James Version Bible and some of the newer Bibles that predate that, when they were compiling those books, they left out the S and made it from plural to singular. And where the inconsistency comes from is, if you actually, to go back to some of the inconsistencies in the Bible, when you turn to Genesis, to go back to some of the inconsistencies in the Bible, when you turn to Genesis chapter 2, it starts off, thus the heavens and the earth were finished and all the host of them. So the new translations were actually contradictory, because in some places they made some words singular, and in some places they made some words plural. Well, if you make something singular that's supposed to be plural, then of course you're going to have that changes the whole meaning of it. Heavens, heaven, and not just look at the translation of what Moses actually wrote. It said, in the beginning Elohim created the heavens and the earth. Heavens and the earth. But Elohim is a word meaning plural, God plural. So when you think of the Trinity, you think of multiple gods. And you might say, well, only God created everything. But then when you look at the creation of male and female, Genesis 1:26, it says, and God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth. And then you go to 27, and it said, so God created man in his own image. So again, you have God saying, let us make. And at that same time in Genesis chapter 1, it's saying that they created male and female in their image. But then it says in his image. So it's a lot of, in Genesis 1 and 2, there's a lot of inconsistencies between the two as far as plural. When you think of plural, when he's talking to somebody up there, as you read the Bible, it says Lady Sophia, or Lady Wisdom, was with God. Lady Wisdom was with the God during creation. So if God's saying, let us make male and female, let us make man in our image, and let them have dominion over the world. So right there, he's talking to someone up there in heaven. And so a lot of people attribute that to the Trinity, saying God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. But obviously, Jesus was a male, and we know we believe God to be a male because he was the father of Jesus. And so with that being said, you have to look at who was the female version that females were created after. And so when you look at that, like I said, there's just inconsistencies, and that's why it's better sometimes, if you want to seek truth and seek God, you need to go back and look at some of the older translations and read it, and get the plurals where there is plurals, and get the singulars where there is singulars. So when you think of heaven, it's actually heavens. So God created the heavens, and he created male in their image. But in the newer translation, it says he created male and female in his image. And so, it's depending on what book you're reading. And those, like I said, those definitely make a major difference if you're talking about singulars and plurals. So you want to get the truth of it. And I do believe that God was talking. It says it in the King James Version Bible too. God was talking to somebody in heaven. He said, let us make man in our image. So we need to not just read the Bible, but we need to study the verses and understand what the verses are saying. A lot of people sometimes they just read the Bible. Well, you just can't just do that. You just can't just read it. You have to study it verse for verse. And so another important factor is when the Bible was originally written, it didn't have chapters and verses. Those weren't added until like the 13th century and after. And so anyway, that's another message from me, Preacher Timothy. I hope you're doing your praying today, and try to do good works and keep God in your life. Bless you.